Hey Pisces, welcome back. You know that feeling when you sense something coming back into your orbit, but you cannot quite put your finger on whether it is genuine or not? That is exactly what we are diving into today. So I sat down with my deck this morning, asked about this energy surrounding Pisces right now, and what came through was incredibly specific. We are talking about someone who might be circling back, or maybe they are already reaching out, and they are coming with this whole narrative about destiny, divine timing, maybe even mentioning spiritual signs, or how the universe kept bringing them back to thoughts of you. But here is where it gets interesting, and why I felt I absolutely had to do this reading for you. The cards are showing me that beneath this seemingly spiritual or fated return, there is a layer we need to examine carefully. This is not about being cynical or closed off, Pisces. You are naturally intuitive, you feel things others miss, and that is your superpower. But sometimes, especially with your compassionate nature, you can give people the benefit of the doubt when your intuition is actually trying to tell you something else entirely. What I am seeing in the cards today is that while this person might genuinely believe their own story about divine intervention or destined reunion, there are hidden elements, unspoken truths, or motivations that have not been brought to light yet. And you deserve to see the full picture before you make any decisions about letting this energy back into your world. I pulled 6 cards for you today, and each one revealed another layer of what is really happening in this situation. So grab your coffee or tea, get comfortable, because we are going deep into this together. And if anything I share resonates with you, or if you are experiencing something similar, let me know in the comments, because I have a feeling this message is landing for quite a few Pisces right now. Let me start by laying out what the cards showed me. The first card I pulled was the Four of Wands. And initially I thought, okay, this is interesting because Four of Wands typically represents celebration, homecoming, stability, and happy reunions. It is that card of coming home, of building something solid, of celebration and harmony. So when this card appeared in a reading about someone potentially returning, my first thought was that maybe this is genuinely about reconciliation and rebuilding. But here's what I noticed as I sat with this card longer. The Four of Wands in this context is actually showing me the image that this person is projecting. They are coming back with this energy of wanting to celebrate what you had, talking about building a stable foundation together, maybe even suggesting that you two are meant to create something lasting. They might be using language around home, safety, partnership, or even talking about how they have changed and are ready to build that stable relationship you always wanted. This card is revealing their approach, Pisces. They are not coming back chaotic or uncertain. No, they are coming back with a plan, with words that sound grounded and mature, with promises of stability and commitment. They might be talking about how they have done the work, how they have realized what they lost, how they want to create that celebration of love with you that you both deserve. And honestly, if someone came to you with this energy, especially knowing your Pisces heart that wants to believe in love and second chances, it would be incredibly appealing. Four of Wands energy feels safe. It feels like finally maybe this person has gotten their act together and is ready to build something real with you. But the cards are showing me that we need to look beneath this presentation. Because while they are painting this picture of homecoming and stability, there are other energies at play that they are not being upfront about. The Four of Wands is the facade in this situation. It is what they want you to see, what they are consciously or unconsciously using to appeal to your desire for partnership and harmony. Think about it this way. Someone who genuinely wanted to rebuild with you would not just come with pretty words about destiny and celebration. They would come with transparency, with acknowledgement of past issues, with concrete evidence of change, not just promises of it. The Four of Wands here is showing me that this person knows exactly what you want to hear, and they are presenting themselves in that light. This does not necessarily mean they are being deliberately manipulative, by the way. They might genuinely believe that they are ready for this stable partnership. But the cards are indicating there is more to this story, more that they have not shared, more that they themselves might not even be fully conscious of regarding their true motivations. I also want you to notice the timing element with the Four of Wands. This card often appears when something is being rushed, or when someone wants to skip past necessary stages of rebuilding. They want to jump straight to the celebration without doing the actual work of addressing what went wrong before. They want the homecoming without the honest conversation about why they left in the first place. For you, Pisces, this is significant because you need to ask yourself, has this person actually addressed the core issues that led to whatever separation or distance occurred? Or are they trying to fast forward to the happy ending without dealing with the middle chapters? The Four of Wands can sometimes indicate someone who wants the outcome without the process, and that is a red flag when it comes to genuine reconciliation. What I am also picking up with this card is that there might be external factors influencing their desire to return. Four of Wands can represent social acceptance, family approval, or looking good to others. Is it possible that part of their motivation for returning has to do with how it appears to other people? Maybe they want to be seen as the person who came back and made things right. Maybe there is some social or family pressure that is influencing their decision to reach out again. The energy of Four of Wands is not inherently deceptive, but in this reading, it is serving as a mask for deeper truths that we are about to uncover with the other cards. So keep this in mind as we move forward. They are presenting celebration, stability, and homecoming, but we need to examine what is underneath that presentation. Now, the second card that came through was the Knight of Swords, and this is where the reading started to shift for me. Because Knight of Swords is about rapid movement, swift action, charging forward with intensity and speed. This knight does not pause, does not reflect deeply. He acts on impulse and intellectual conviction, often without considering the emotional consequences. What this tells me about this person's return is that there is a sense of urgency driving them. They are not taking their time to genuinely process what happened between you two or to truly examine their own motives. Instead, they are charging forward with this reconnection, possibly because of some external trigger or internal panic rather than authentic personal growth. Knight of Swords energy can be exciting at first because it feels passionate and decisive. This person might be reaching out frequently, sending long messages, wanting to talk things through immediately, pushing for answers or decisions from you quickly. They have convinced themselves intellectually that returning to you is the right move, and now they are acting on that conviction with single-minded focus. But here's the thing about Knight of Swords that I want you to really understand, Pisces. This knight operates primarily from the mind, not the heart. His decisions are based on logic, strategy, and what makes sense to him intellectually. He has thought about this return, he has perhaps analyzed the situation, and he has concluded that coming back is the smart move. But has he actually felt into what he did wrong? Has he processed the emotional impact of his previous actions or choices? Has he developed genuine empathy for how you were affected? The Knight of Swords suggests no. He is operating from his head, convinced by his own reasoning, but not necessarily transformed on an emotional or spiritual level. This is someone who can articulate all the right things, who can explain logically why you two should be together, who can debate and discuss and intellectualize the relationship. But when it comes to actual emotional availability, vulnerability, or deep inner work, that is where we might find some gaps. I am also seeing with this card that there could be some defensiveness beneath the surface. Knight of Swords can be argumentative when challenged. If you were to question this person's motives or ask them to slow down and really examine what they are doing, they might become defensive or try to use logic to dismiss your concerns. They might tell you that you are overthinking things, that you are being too emotional, or that you are not seeing the situation clearly. This is classic Knight of Swords behavior when he does not want to face uncomfortable truths. Another layer to this Knight of Swords energy is that swords represent communication and truth, but knights represent the immature expression of their suit. So this is someone who has some truth, who is being somewhat honest, but who is not giving you the full story. They are communicating quickly, perhaps flooding you with words and explanations, but the depth and complete honesty you need is missing. This knight is also known for creating conflict or stirring things up, even unintentionally. His arrival is rarely peaceful or gentle. So even if this person says they want harmony and reconciliation, their actual energy might be quite disruptive to your peace. They might bring drama, intensity, or chaos with them, even if that is not their conscious intention. What really stands out to me about Knight of Swords following the Four of Wands is this contrast between the stable, grounded, celebratory energy they are projecting versus the rushed, intense, somewhat reckless energy that is actually driving them. They want you to see the Four of Wands, but they are embodying Knight of Swords, and that discrepancy is important for you to recognize. Think about someone who says they want to build a stable home with you while simultaneously rushing every conversation, pushing for quick decisions, and operating from a place of mental conviction rather than emotional maturity. Do you see the contradiction there? The Four of Wands takes time to build. It requires patience, consistent effort, and genuine foundation work. But Knight of Swords wants everything now, wants to skip ahead, wants to convince you through sheer force of will and clever argumentation. For you, Pisces, this means you need to slow this person down if they are approaching you with this energy. Do not let yourself get swept up in their urgency or their intellectual arguments for why you should reconnect. Your intuition and your emotions matter more than their logical reasoning. If something feels off to you, if your gut is sending you warning signals, that matters infinitely more than how well they can argue their case for returning. I am also picking up that this Knight of Swords energy might indicate some hidden aggression or anger that has not been properly processed. Knights can sometimes represent immature expressions of emotion, and with swords, that can manifest as cutting words, passive aggression, or unleashing frustration on others. Has this person actually dealt with whatever anger or resentment might be beneath the surface? Or are they charging back into your life while carrying unprocessed negative emotions that could resurface later? The third card I pulled is Death, and I know that card can sound intense or scary, but stay with me because what Death is showing in this reading is actually crucial information for you. Death represents profound transformation, endings that make way for new beginnings, the shedding of old identities, and fundamental change at the deepest level. In this context, Death is revealing what is actually needed from this person for any genuine reunion to be possible. They would need to have experienced a complete death of their old self, their old patterns, their old ways of relating. We are not talking about superficial changes or intellectual insights. We are talking about ego death, identity transformation, a fundamental shift in who they are at their core. The question the Death card is asking is, has this person actually undergone that level of transformation? Have they allowed their old self to die so that a genuinely new version could emerge? Because without that death and rebirth process, they are just the same person in slightly different packaging, and the same dynamics that existed before will inevitably resurface. What I am sensing with Death appearing in this reading is that the transformation has not fully occurred, or if it has begun, it is incomplete. This person might have had some realizations, some insights, maybe even some changes in behavior. But the deep, fundamental transformation that Death represents, where you cannot go back to who you were before because that person literally no longer exists, I am not seeing evidence that they have completed that journey. Death also speaks to grieving Pisces, and this is important. For someone to genuinely transform after a relationship ending or damage being done, they need to grieve what was lost. They need to feel the full weight of their choices and their consequences. They need to mourn the version of themselves that made those mistakes. They need to sit in the discomfort of recognizing how they hurt someone they cared about. Has this person done that grief work? Or are they trying to skip past the uncomfortable feelings and jump straight to resurrection and reunion? Because Death teaches us that you cannot have true rebirth without first fully experiencing and honoring the death. Trying to bypass that process leaves the transformation incomplete. I am also seeing that Death in this position might be revealing their fear of transformation. Maybe this person is returning to you precisely because they are avoiding the death and rebirth process they need to go through. Being with you might feel safer, more familiar, less demanding of fundamental change. They might be seeking comfort in what was, rather than doing the hard work of becoming someone new. This is a pattern I see a lot in readings, where someone circles back to a previous relationship not because they have genuinely changed, but because the prospect of real transformation is terrifying, and they would rather return to familiar patterns. It is a form of resistance to the very growth they need to experience. Death is also showing me that there are things from the past that need to be completely released and left behind for anything healthy to be built in the future. Old resentments, old patterns of communication, old ways of handling conflict, old fears and insecurities. These all need to die. They cannot be brought along into a renewed connection because they will poison it from within. The appearance of death is asking you, Pisces, to consider whether this person has truly released the past or whether they are trying to resurrect it. Are they trying to go back to what was, or are they genuinely proposing to create something entirely new that honors how both of you have changed? Because those are two very different things. Death can also represent secrets and what is hidden beneath the surface. This card often shows up when there are things that have been buried, literally or metaphorically, that need to come to light. In the context of someone returning with a story about destiny and divine guidance, death is suggesting there are buried truths, hidden chapters, or secrets that they have not disclosed. What died during your time apart that they have not told you about? What ended in their life that is actually motivating this return? Did another relationship end? Did some opportunity they were chasing fall apart? Did they experience some loss or failure that is driving them back to something familiar? Death indicates that something significant has ended for them, and that ending is part of what is propelling them toward you. But they might not be being honest about what that something is. This is where the Devil card that appears in your reading theme makes perfect sense. Someone can come to you talking about divine intervention and spiritual destiny, but if they are hiding significant truths about what is really motivating their return, that is devilish behavior. That is manipulation through omission. That is using spiritual language to mask earthly, ego-driven motivations. The Death card is essentially highlighting the gap between who they would need to be for a healthy reunion and who they actually are right now. It is showing you the transformation that is missing, the grief work that has not been done, the letting go that has not occurred. And it is warning you that without that complete death and rebirth, any reconnection will just be a repetition of previous patterns. I want you to really feel into this, Pisces. When someone approaches you about coming back together, you need to be able to sense whether they have been through their own underworld journey. Have they faced their shadow? Have they confronted their demons? Have they allowed themselves to be completely broken down so that something new could be built? Or are they just the same person who has had some time to think and now believes they are ready to try again? The Fool card came through next, and this is card number 1 in the major arcana, representing new beginnings, innocence, taking a leap of faith, and starting fresh with openness and trust. In a different context, the Fool would be beautiful, suggesting genuine new starts and authentic openness to what could be. But in this reading, with everything else we have seen, the Fool is showing me something concerning. It is revealing that this person might be approaching this reconnection with a kind of spiritual bypassing or naive belief that they can just start over fresh without actually addressing what happened before. They want the clean slate that the Fool represents, but they have not done the work that earns that fresh start. The Fool is someone who steps off the cliff trusting that the universe will catch them, and in spiritual or personal growth contexts, that can be beautiful. But the Fool can also represent foolishness, lack of awareness of consequences, failure to learn from past mistakes, and a kind of spiritual immaturity where someone thinks good intentions are enough without the backing of real change or responsibility. What I am picking up is that this person might genuinely believe they have changed or that divine forces are guiding this reunion. The Fool represents sincere belief, even if that belief is not grounded in reality. They might honestly think that enough time has passed, that the universe is giving them a sign, that starting fresh is possible simply because they want it to be. But the Fool does not look where he is going. He is so focused on the sky, on the higher realms, on possibility and potential, that he does not watch his step. He does not consider practical realities. He does not learn from the past because he is so focused on the future. And that is dangerous when we are talking about someone who hurt you before or who left unresolved issues in their wake. The Fool can also indicate someone who is being guided by their ego or their desire while believing they are being guided by something higher. This is that spiritual bypassing I mentioned, where someone uses spiritual language and concepts to avoid taking real responsibility or doing genuine self-examination. They might talk about divine timing, soul connections, destiny bringing them back to you, but these words are being used to avoid saying, I messed up, I hurt you, I need to earn your trust again through consistent actions over time. The Fool wants the adventure, the excitement, the new beginning, but without the weight of accountability. And for you, Pisces, this is particularly tricky because you are naturally drawn to spiritual concepts, and you want to believe in magic and divine orchestration. Someone coming to you with Fool energy, talking about how the universe kept bringing them back to thoughts of you, can be incredibly seductive to your romantic spiritual nature. But I need you to ground yourself here. The Fool in this context is showing you that this person has not matured in the ways necessary for a healthy relationship. They might be spiritually curious or interested in growth concepts, but they have not done the hard work of actual transformation. They want enlightenment without the dark night of the soul. They want resurrection without death. They want the destination without the journey. There is also an element of recklessness with the Fool that concerns me in this reading. This person might be making impulsive decisions based on feelings or signs they think they are receiving without really considering the impact on you. They are so focused on their own experience, their own journey, their own spiritual insights, that they are not fully considering what their re-entry into your life might mean for your peace, your healing, your progress. The Fool is the ultimate innocent, which sounds sweet, until you realize that in adult relationships, we need more than innocence. We need wisdom earned through experience. We need humility that comes from recognizing our capacity to harm others. We need caution that protects both people from repeating painful patterns. The Fool has none of this because the Fool has not yet lived through the lessons that would teach these things. What strikes me most about the Fool appearing in this reading is that it shows this person wants to start from zero, as if nothing happened before. They want you to meet them in that innocent, trusting space where you give them a blank slate. But Pisces, you have history with this person. You have experience. You have data about who they are and how they behave. And the Fool energy is asking you to disregard all of that in favor of faith and fresh starts. That is not fair to you. That is not honoring your journey or your learning. You have wisdom now that you did not have before, and the Fool showing up is like this person asking you to forget that wisdom and just trust blindly again. I am also seeing that the Fool can represent someone who is spiritually scattered or who picks up concepts without deeply integrating them. They might be into tarot, astrology, manifestation, spiritual healing, but in a superficial way. They use the language but have not done the deep inner work. They know the words, but not the embodied experience. And they might be using that spiritual language to try to appeal to you or to convince themselves that they are on a higher path now. The Fool is showing me that while they might believe their own story about destiny and spiritual guidance bringing them back to you, the reality is that they are making an impulsive, not fully thought through decision based on feelings and desires rather than genuine readiness for mature partnership. The Four of Cups appeared next, and this card brought so much clarity to what is really happening beneath the surface. Four of Cups represents apathy, disconnection, taking things for granted, emotional unavailability, and someone who is looking elsewhere while ignoring what is right in front of them. This card is revealing their true emotional state despite whatever words they might be speaking. Four of Cups shows someone who is fundamentally dissatisfied, who has a pattern of thinking the grass is greener elsewhere, who cannot fully appreciate what they have because they are always focused on what they do not have. What this tells me about this person returning is that they might be coming back not because they have genuinely recognized your value and done the work to appreciate you differently, but because other options have not worked out. Four of Cups often shows up when someone has been looking elsewhere, pursuing other connections or opportunities, and those have left them feeling empty or dissatisfied, so now they are circling back. This is crucial information, Pisces. This person might be returning to you as a consolation rather than as a choice. You might be the cup they ignored while they were chasing other possibilities. And now that those other pursuits have proven unfulfilling, they are finally willing to consider what was always available to them. But that is not the same as truly valuing you. That is settling because other options fell through. The Four of Cups shows someone sitting under a tree, arms crossed, looking bored or dissatisfied, while three cups sit before them, and a fourth is being offered by a hand from a cloud. This person cannot even see the divine offering because they are so stuck in their own dissatisfaction. They cannot appreciate what is real and present because they are lost in fantasies of what could be elsewhere. This energy is the opposite of what you deserve in a partner. You deserve someone who sees you clearly, who recognizes the gift of your presence, who is not constantly looking over your shoulder wondering if something better might be out there. The Four of Cups indicates that this person has not developed that capacity for true appreciation and presence. What really gets me about the Four of Cups in this reading is that it directly contradicts the spiritual destiny narrative they might be presenting. If someone is truly being guided by divine forces or destiny to return to you, they would be excited, energized, grateful, present. They would not have this Four of Cups energy of apathy and wandering attention. The Four of Cups is showing me that emotionally, this person is still not present. Even if they are physically or verbally reaching out to you, their emotional energy is checked out, distracted, unavailable. They might go through the motions of reconnection, they might say the right things, but their heart is not fully in it because they have not developed the capacity to be fully present with another person. This card also indicates someone who has a hard time with contentment. They are always seeking, always wondering, always feeling like something is missing. And Pisces, if you allow this person back into your life without them addressing this core issue, you will find yourself constantly trying to be enough for someone who is fundamentally unable to feel that anyone or anything is enough. That is an exhausting and soul-crushing dynamic. Four of Cups can also point to depression or emotional numbness. Maybe this person has been through difficulties and has shut down emotionally as a coping mechanism. If that is the case, they are in no position to be in a healthy relationship because they are not emotionally available or present. They need to do their own healing work before they can show up for anyone else. In the context of secrets and hidden motivations, Four of Cups is revealing that this person's emotional dissatisfaction or unavailability is something they are probably not being upfront about. They might not even fully recognize it themselves. They are talking about coming back, building something, maybe even using spiritual language about destiny, but underneath, they are emotionally disconnected and not truly available for real intimacy. This is the devil's work, honestly. Coming to someone with words of spiritual connection and destiny while being emotionally unavailable and disconnected. That is manipulation, even if it is unconscious manipulation. That is using someone's hope and spiritual beliefs against them. The sixth and final card I pulled was the Hierophant, and this card brought everything full circle in a way that honestly made my jaw drop. The Hierophant represents traditional values, institutions, conformity, doing things the proper way, seeking approval from authority or society, and presenting a respectable image. In this reading, the Hierophant is showing me that part of what is driving this person's return has to do with external pressures or concerns about how they appear to others. They might be feeling pressure from family to settle down, from society to be in a committed relationship, from their spiritual community to do the right thing, or from their own internal authority figures that tell them they should make things right with you. This is so important because it reveals that their motivation is not purely or even primarily about you and genuine love or connection. It is about fulfilling some role, meeting some expectation, checking some box that society or their internal programming tells them they should check. The Hierophant can represent someone who is very concerned with doing things properly, appearing righteous, being seen as a good person. And I am picking up that this person might be coming back to you, partially because it makes them look good, because it fits a narrative of redemption or spiritual growth that they want to embody, because it allows them to be the person who came back and made things right. But here is the thing, Pisces. When someone is motivated by external validation or the need to appear a certain way, rather than genuine internal transformation and authentic desire, that creates a relationship built on shaky ground. What happens when the external pressure changes? What happens when being with you stops serving their image or meeting outside expectations? The Hierophant is also showing me that this person might be approaching the situation in a very traditional or conventional way, which might seem reassuring on the surface, but could actually indicate a lack of genuine creativity, authenticity, or real connection to their own truth. They are following a script, doing what they think they are supposed to do, rather than acting from genuine feeling and desire. When I connect the Hierophant to the theme of this reading about someone returning with a story of divine guidance and destiny, what becomes clear is that this person is using spiritual or religious concepts in a very conventional, surface-level way. They are not having genuine mystical experiences or authentic spiritual transformation. They are using spiritual language the way the Hierophant uses traditional religious language, as a form of social acceptability and external validation. The Hierophant seeks approval from institutions, from established authorities, from what is deemed proper and correct. So this person might be saying that God or the universe or their higher self is telling them to come back to you. But what they really mean is that their conditioning, their ego, their desire to appear spiritual or evolved is driving this return. The Hierophant can also indicate someone who is very concerned with rules, structures, and doing things the right way according to some external standard. This could manifest as them trying to convince you that reconciliation is what you are supposed to do, that forgiveness is the spiritual thing to do, that giving people second chances is the morally correct path. They might use spiritual or moral arguments to pressure you into accepting their return. But Pisces, you are not obligated to accept someone back just because they frame it in spiritual terms, or because they suggest that denying them goes against some higher principle. Your boundaries, your intuition, your well-being are more important than any external standard of how you are supposed to behave. What also strikes me about the Hierophant is that this is card number 5, which is about structure and human constructs, while we also had the Fool, card 0, representing infinite possibility and divine innocence. This person is trying to have it both ways, talking about divine guidance and fresh starts, while also being deeply concerned with traditional expectations and social conformity. The Hierophant in this final position is basically confirming what all the other cards have been showing you. This person is not approaching you from a place of authentic transformation, genuine spiritual insight, or real emotional availability. They are approaching you from a place of ego, social conditioning, intellectual conviction without emotional depth, fear of true transformation, emotional unavailability, and concern for external validation. They might genuinely believe their own story about destiny bringing them back to you. The Fool energy suggests they are sincere in their belief. But sincerity is not the same as truth, and belief is not the same as reality. They have convinced themselves of a narrative that serves their ego and their conditioning, and they are using spiritual language to make that narrative more appealing to you and more convincing to themselves. So where does this leave you, Pisces? With 6 cards that have painted a very clear picture of what is actually happening beneath the surface of this seemingly spiritual or fated return. You have someone projecting stability and celebration while actually being driven by urgency and intellectual conviction rather than genuine transformation. You have someone who has not done the deep death and rebirth work necessary for real change. You have someone approaching with spiritual naivety or bypassing, wanting a fresh start without accountability. You have someone who is emotionally unavailable and dissatisfied, possibly returning because other options did not work out. And you have someone motivated by external pressures and concern for image rather than authentic desire. This is not the divine intervention they are claiming it to be. This is human ego wrapped in spiritual language. This is the devil wearing an angel costume, exactly as your reading theme suggested. Now, does this mean this person is intentionally manipulative or malicious? Not necessarily. They might genuinely believe everything they are telling you, but conscious intention does not change the reality of what is actually happening. Whether they mean to or not, they are not offering you what you need or deserve in a genuine partnership. Your job now, Pisces, is to trust the wisdom that these cards have revealed. Do not let pretty words about destiny or spiritual connection override what you know to be true. Do not let their urgency rush you into decisions you are not ready to make. Do not let their intellectual arguments convince you to ignore your intuition. If this person truly has transformed, if they truly are ready for genuine partnership, time will prove that. Real change shows itself through consistent behavior over extended periods, not through urgent messages and spiritual language. Someone who has genuinely done the inner work will respect your need to see that work demonstrated through actions, not just promised through words. And honestly, Pisces, someone who is truly being guided by divine forces to return to you would not need to convince you of that. The divine does not need to sell itself. Real destiny does not require persuasive arguments. When something is truly meant to be, it unfolds naturally, with ease, with both people feeling aligned and clear, not with one person pushing and the other feeling uncertain. So take your time with this. Honor your intuition. Trust what the cards have shown you. You deserve someone who has done the real work, who is emotionally available and present, who values you clearly and consistently, who is motivated by genuine love rather than ego needs or external pressures. You deserve someone who does not need to use spiritual language to convince you of their worth, because their actions speak louder than any words ever could. Thank you for being here with me for this reading today. I hope it brought you the clarity and confirmation you needed. Trust yourself, beautiful Pisces. You know the truth when you hear it, and you have permission to honor that knowing, even when others are telling you different stories.